All right, great. Thank you everyone for joining in. Today is going to be a very special forum because we have also a special announcement to share. But before we jump right into the speakers, I wanted to inform you that this webinar is a space for respectful learning sessions. So please find the code of conduct on the chat box. And since we're going to have several speakers today, we're also going to have several Q&A session. So please leave your questions in the chat box and we'll get to it later on the Q&A session. All right, I think we can just get ahead and start it. So I'm welcoming Achim as the first speaker. Achim, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see so many names here that we know now actually for years. And I think this will be a great session. So let me just jump right in and share the presentation and get a little bit here my Zoom stuff organized. Perfect. Yeah, so Johanna already mentioned we have a couple of speakers today, and I want to give a quick intro on actually how we actually ended up with Home Assistant. I think it's quite an interesting story. So we actually going back like 6 years. Some of you probably know that we started when I was on a sabbatical in Thailand. And then this thing happened. So this is a picture I took in 2019 from the terrace of my house. And it's the so-called burning season in northern Thailand, which is unfortunately happening every year around March, April. And 2019 was really, really bad. I was parents president at my kids' school, and they didn't know, do the air purifiers work well enough or not. And with like my background, like my technical background, yeah, we started like building monitors, building purification equipment, doing workshops with the students. Here's one camp we were running with local high school students around the area that came to campus for like 2 days. And then, yeah, like we had medical doctors telling them, okay, what does the smoke actually do with your body? We had firefighters coming in, actually bringing them also to the forest and telling them how they extinguish these fires. And I think a big part was also like advocacy skills, like basically like really, yeah, making it clear, no matter how old you are, you have a right for clean air. At the same time, yeah, we worked on the technical side. So we built the first versions of the air quality monitors. At the time, we didn't even have an enclosure, so like we used some recycled plastic bottles. We also actually built really big purification equipment. Here you can see me on the right working with students. This was actually equipment. We built like 10 of these units and put them into the sports hall to also be able to actually do some kind of exercise, football games, volleyball games during that so-called smoke season. And with this, I think what's really important to point out, so at that point already we put build instructions on the internet as yeah, open source hardware under Creative Commons license. And this is, I mean, a lot of you know, still true today. All our products are open source hardware. And this means that you can actually go to our website. You can I just put the link here for the people who don't know yet. You can actually, even the monitor that is the latest version here, the one that we also sell through our online shop, you can actually have all design files here to completely build this thing yourself. So there are things like KiCad. Some of you might know that you can then actually produce your PCBs with the components. There are like the enclosure files here, STL, so you can 3D print it or adjust it. And really there's like, obviously also including the firmware, which is pretty clear. So it's a real complete open source. It's not an open core, and then you have some additional stuff that you have to pay. It's like the complete thing is completely open. And now let's go a little bit into actually how we got into Home Assistant. And we actually didn't start with Home Assistant. We built these monitors, and at the same time, we actually built our own data platform, which is I think very much also like focused on schools at that time, like like features that help inform like teachers at certain times about air quality, comparing like indoor and outdoor air quality. So special features that we implemented. So obviously the first firmware was then something that communicated with our own data platform. But because we worked with students, and I think many of you know the Arduino platform, which is very popular for like in the educational sector, we use the Arduino IDE basically to have the firmware, and that's why it's actually still called Arduino, our firmware. It's a relic from the past. And now I mean, I put the GitHub here, so we still use exactly the same GitHub that we started like 5 years ago. Actually, we can see this here. And one of the also first thing, and some of you might remember that, was that I actually started to send free PCBs to people that actually wanted to build this thing. So they just sent me, I think through PayPal, like a couple of US dollars. And then I still remember I went to the post office in Thailand, put a PCB in an envelope, and then send it all around the world. And one of the persons who actually got the PCB was Jeff Gerling. I think a lot of you know him. And then he made a YouTube video, and it was interesting because I didn't actually know that he's doing it. I think he actually sending an email which got somehow buried, and suddenly our web server had really problems keeping up because so many people came through that video, and we can still see that today. Like we have now 360,000 views on that video, 700 comments. So. And I think that gave us a really big boost, visibility for this open source DIY kit, and that's actually our first version that we called Basic Kit, which we still have on the website as build instructions. And I think that really opened um, the audience to a lot of people also that are home assistant enthusiasts. And then what happened was that because it wasn't really our focus at that time, that go next, that actually Joshua Malog Array developed this ESP Home integration pretty much on his own, which has a lot of fans. You see 290 stars. I checked today, we had 291 stars with our Arduino library. And because he came after us, so I'm pretty sure he will probably overtake the Arduino library. But really great work, and we are quite close now. And Joshua is also like really answering lots of questions on our community forum. So big thank you to Joshua. I know he's traveling. I'm not sure if he can join today, but I think a really great contribution from him for the whole community. And I think also what's great, actually, the ESP Home integration still has some features that we don't have in the official firmware when it comes to certain LED configurations and things like this. So I think it's always great to have healthy competition, and that's how I see it. There's a really good place still for ESP Home within the ecosystem here. But then obviously not everybody is really familiar with ESP Home because it needs some extra configuration or installations. So more and more people then ask us, hey, why don't you make a more native Home Assistant integration? And that's what we then did. And here is a special thank you to Joost, who will talk in a few minutes as well, who was developing or is developing our official AirGradient Home Assistant integration. I think we started, I don't know, I think 1.5 years ago, roughly on that. and which is great. So to really have this very tight integration with Home Assistant. So now you might probably guess why we are here today. So I'm super happy and proud to announce that since today we are officially works with Home Assistant certified. It's, I think, a real milestone in our company. Especially you will see later that I think roughly half of the community are actually using Home Assistant. So it's a really big part of what we do, and so I'm super thankful for having achieved this. It's a team effort, and I'm also glad that actually we have two people from Home Assistant here, because Joost is also in the meantime at Home Assistant employed or at the Open Home Foundation. And without further ado, later on we're gonna have more questions. I would like to hand over to Miranda from Home Assistant to give a little bit of an intro into the Works with Home Assistant program. Yeah,
Thank
over
you
to you,
very much for that. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Is it okay if I share my screen as well?
Yes,
Just
please.
so I can, yeah. I'll just show some slides a second. Can you see that all okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Okay, great. So thank you very much for that introduction. It's a real pleasure to be part of this forum today. As we've just seen, the Works with Home Assistant badge is official as of today for the AirGradient air quality monitors. So I thought I would just give you a little bit of background as to Home Assistant generally, and then what the actual badging means too from our side. So Works with Home Assistant is just one small part of what we do here at Home Assistant. For anyone who's not familiar with the platform, we're a large open source smart home ecosystem. So everything that we do is very much aligned with the AirGradient values as well. It's local, it's private, it's secure. It was founded almost 12 years ago now, and we're very proud to be the most active open source project worldwide on GitHub. Last year, we had over 21,000 contributors in 2024. And so we like to say that we have 21,000 different developers working for us. But it's a real amazing community of tinkerers, DIYers, coders, and people just who really care about their smart homes, who care about privacy and care about local control as well. So if you're not familiar with it, it's, like I said, it's totally open source and it's free to use. It's used currently by over 2 million homes worldwide. So it's really starting to be a disruptor to the big tech companies who take a lot of data, who rely on cloud control. And that's really the antithesis of what we do here. So local control is paramount to us, and we really appreciate when manufacturers focus on local control and then also contribute their own integrations and work together with us, like you guys at AirGradient, to produce something that works for our shared user base. So a little bit more about how we're run and how we're governed. The Home Assistant project was initially just a project on GitHub, so it wasn't really kind of owned by any business or any specific entity. So last year we created the Open Home Foundation, which is a Swiss non-profit foundation, which is the legal kind of protection and governance for the Home Assistant project. And we have three guiding principles at the foundation. The first is privacy. We believe that everyone who has a smart home should be able to be in full control of their data, what it does, where it goes, and who it's shared with. And we believe that people's homes should be a sacred space. The next one is choice. We believe people should be able to mix and match devices however they wish. Excuse me. And be able to then automate fully based on those different devices and not be tied to one different ecosystem, one manufacturer of device type. And then the last one is sustainability, which I think we really share a value on here. We believe that, you know, you should be able to repurpose hardware, you should be able to repair it when you need. And so working with open source manufacturers, this is really in line with kind of what we do. So the actual Works with Home Assistant badge then, you might see Works with badges like this on lots of different smart home technology, but ours we like to think is quite different. So I'm the partnerships manager here, and this is my project. This is the one that I'm responsible for, so I'm very proud of it. But we award this badge only when manufacturers firstly align with our values and understand our community, but also when they engage with us fully and do things like, you know, build using open protocols or build their own integrations. So we test their products fully. We make sure that they work kind of in every scenario. The testing is very thorough. It takes a lot longer than maybe other testing does in the rest of the smart home world. But this is to make sure that when someone purchases the product, it should work seamlessly with Home Assistant and it would work in all the ways you could expect. So it's not just a powerful way to get data about the air quality in and outside of your home, but it really mobilizes your smart home to be able to make you know, changes based on the different things going on. So open and close doors, open and close windows, have open close sensors working with the air quality monitors to be able to alert you if the air quality coming in inside is poor, and alert you to close a window, alert you to put on an air purifier or do it for you in those cases. So yeah, it's a really exciting pairing, I think, an addition to the Works with Home Assistant program. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. I don't think so. I think we can probably move on to the more technical aspect of it, but obviously I'll be around to take questions later as well. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Miranda. I don't see any question in the chat yet. So then maybe we just move on, go a little bit into a more technical aspect now. So Joost, over to you. Maybe you can quickly introduce yourself and then have your presentation.
Thank you, Achim. So I'm Joost. I'm the creator and the maintainer of the Home Assistant AirGradient integration. And it all started once when Achim sent out this email to the community when asking for someone who could write an integration. And well, a friend referred it to me, and I got in contact with Achim, and we started to work together on building the integration. So I'm now going to try to share my screen. Share. I guess this works now. Does it work now?
Yes, it's
okay,
working.
Great. Okay, so this is the integration page. The integration has been created, has been added in the 2024.6 release of Home Assistant. So it's in there for over a year, and we already have more than 1,300 active installations. Keep in mind, though, that these analytics only contain the active installations that actually share analytics. So in reality, this number is way higher. So the integration itself allows you to monitor your data, your air quality, but also configure your device. So this can enable use cases like, okay, if I'm, well, if the carbon dioxide in my office is too high, alert me. Or if I want to start Netflix on my TV, please disable the LED bar so I have less light to watch Netflix. To build an integration like this, we first did a Python package because Home Assistant is written in Python, and to enable to avoid making Home Assistant a really big code base, because we have 1,400 different integrations, we want every device and service specific code to be its own package. This way, this is also our way of giving back to the Python community, because if you now want to write a script that uses data from your air quality monitor or Verisat, you already have a ready-made package that you can use there. so you don't have to sell. The package is fully open source, as Achim already showed, and it's all based on it. The library itself integrates with the REST API of your Air monitor. And for this, like generally, when we work on the integration with Home Assistant, it's not always that straightforward. Like for some integrations, you really need to kind of hack your phone or like reverse engineer the whole app just to know how something works. Because the manufacturer is not actively working with us. But in this case, well, there was documentation. It wasn't always as complete, but well, we improved it after that. And so now it was quite easy to work on it. And like there, for example, calls just to get the current air quality, also to get the current, get the configuration parameters and how to update them. So then we end up with a library, and then we map that, create an integration for it. And in theory, an integration would be like a mapping between the library and Home Assistant and the different entities. So for example, if we look at a sensor, which is like a data point, we can see that, for example, we have a humidity sensor. So here we add the extra context, like what kind of sensor is it? What is the unit? Do we want to store the statistics? And how do we fetch it from the library? This is like roughly how the integration works. In order for an integration to be able to be included in Works as Home Assistant, it needs to have a certain kind of user experience. And so that's why we have the integration quality scale, which is like a framework for integrations to explain how well they are like with user experience, because they're really good ones, but some are just not really straightforward. And this is like our solution to motivate people to get there. So, and with the gold integration, we believe that the developer maintainer did everything to at least have a solid user experience. And I'm going to highlight a few rules here. Like there are a couple here, but for example, devices can be discovered. The AirGradient device itself, when you attach it to your network, it will announce itself on the network like, hey, I'm an AirGradient device and I'm visible on this IP address. With the big benefit of this is that Home Assistant is listening to those messages. So whenever you attach your AirGradient monitor to your network, Home Assistant can just recognize that there's an AirGradient monitor and will just ask you to set it up. This way you don't need to find the IP address, or it will just work in theory. And some other things like with the gold scale, we also want to make sure, for example, that the integration is used by a broader audience. So two of these rules, so for example, entities are able to be translated. So not because like a majority of you, like a big part of users are maybe not native English speakers, so they want to use their own native language. And being able to have translated names or error messages, that's something that we as Home Assistant think as a good user experience. Well, and I'm proud to say that the integration currently is a platinum. So, well, it's expected that you get a really good experience from using integration. And it's really great now that we get the Works as Home Assistant badge on it. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm looking forward to the future. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Joost, for your help and for really writing this integration, because we also we have to say we didn't really have the knowledge within AirGradient at that time, at least, to do it ourselves. So I also don't see any specific question right now. So please feel free to put it into the chat. So I would say then let's continue on the other end, which is actually the firmware of the monitor, which is Sam. So the stage is yours, and you can maybe give a little bit of an overview on the firmware side.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. I hope my voice is clear. Yeah, so this is the repository that actually Achim already shown on his presentation. As you can see here, we have communities that already contributes here, like quite a lot, and making issues and making PRs. And then as you also can see here, actually we also already document, like for example, on how to compile our repository and then make your own firmware, right? That's basically open source, right? And then you actually can contribute after if you found something that you think it's quite useful for the community, right? And then you can share it, making PRs like usual. And then regarding integration, it's actually a basic local server API, right? And then as you can see here, you, as long as your, let's say, computer or service is on the same network as your monitor, you can basically getting the measurements from the monitors locally. So does your monitor doesn't actually have to connect to our server or internet even, right? So like it is local first. So yeah, so you can do whatever using these local servers, right? And then yeah, this is how to compile. Right. Yeah, this is regarding OTA. And then for another thing is actually we can get our data directly from the our public API, right? And then you can see here we can get the work, basically everything, every outdoor monitors that they say people share to us. And then also, and here actually people making a lot of integration, right? Like for example, like AirDash, Homey, OpenHAB, and etc. So it's quite interesting actually. And if we actually type AirGradient on GitHub, we actually can see a lot of people making their own thing, right? So yeah. So yeah, it is basically it, right? And then regarding not only this repository, right? We are actually making library that basically interact with our server using either cellular or Wi-Fi, and then we make it as a separate library, and we integrate it to our main repository as a submodule. So our new product, which is OpenAir Max, which is battery-powered outdoor monitors, able to use it too in here, right? So yeah, I think that's basically it. Maybe it is better for everyone if everyone has some question. It is better for me to answer some questions, I guess.
Great. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's getting more and more complex, I would say, the firmware, and
Yeah.
which in a way is probably natural because we are I mean, in like guess kind of getting more professional, and things are like we are adding more and more features, and then more and more products, and then we also need certain libraries that we can then use in multiple products. But I think the good news is that we are so convinced on the open source aspect that we have no plans to change course or anything like this. But Sam, you mentioned something really important, which I will actually cover in my next thing too. It's like, yes, local first is great, and I know it's on top of
Yeah.
Home Assistant, but on the other hand, we also have a mission as AirGradient to say, okay, we want to have more transparency on air quality worldwide. Okay, so this is also something that we say, okay, we actually want people to share, for example, their outdoor data, and that could be potentially sometimes maybe a little bit of a conflict. So on the one hand, yes, you want privacy and you want local first, but you might also want to see, okay, what's the air quality that maybe the nearby city has, and if there's another Home Assistant user that could provide this, it would be great. But this will actually be part of the next topic I want to cover. So I still don't see any questions today. I think first time that people are. Oh no, now it's just something came in. I just want to say first time that people are so shy. Is there a calibration feature for the temperature and humidity for the DIY boards? Actually, that's a tricky one, Stuart. I think I need to come back to you. I know we have a beta version. I need to double check this, but I think in general, the good news is that I think we are probably still compatible with the old DIY boards. We just need to compile the latest release, but that's a good point. I will come back to you on that one. All right, so let me go back to the thing. So you probably saw that with the invitation to this forum, we also sent around a survey, and we called it the product improvement or feedback survey. And we also put in a few questions specifically on Home Assistant. So I was actually putting this thing together today, and I want to give you a quick overview. So we had 241 responses that are now included in these preliminary results. We will probably spend a couple of more days really looking at all the comments and so on, but I closed the survey just basically this morning here. So this is just a very first impression. And the surveys basically looked at what's the primary use that you have with the air quality monitors. What's your feedback on the hardware, the software? What do you like? What do you think needs improvement? The same on the software side, data platform, which is then not only our own, but also Home Assistant, for example, if you use this. And then we had a few questions about community engagement and actually a lucky draw with this. So primary use case, it seems most people were really about general health and wellness. I mean, everybody knows that bad air quality impacts our, basically our well-being. You can get headaches or difficult to concentrate if CO2 goes very high, but also with PM 2.5, we know it actually can have pretty serious health impacts like asthma or other issues. Then there was a combination about health, and people used it like for smart home. I think what we mentioned, maybe things like automating, the ventilation system, or maybe just having a Philips Hue light and saying, okay, I want to change the color based on my CO2 levels. I mean, that's a great thing with Home Assistant, that you can just mix and match it with everything you have in your house as well. Obviously, lots of automation that can be done, and HVAC I mentioned. Yeah, so I think not really surprising here. What was good feedback was from our indoor and outdoor monitor. So the majority is really happy with the device. We had, I think, 4 people that weren't happy. Luckily, they left some comments, so we can really look into these issues. I think one was about Wi-Fi stability, which was actually part of an older firmware version where we had problems, so might be fixed with a simple update. But then there are a few other things that we plan to improve actually next year. So next year we're planning to have a refresh of the indoor sensor. But what's also interesting was that the outdoor air quality monitor seemed to have slightly higher satisfaction ratings. So now this is probably good news for Home Assistant. So we actually pretty much share equally the AirGradient dashboard with the Home Assistant. It's good to see that we also still have ESP home users. And then other platforms are things like Homey or Prometheus, Grafana, or what Sam also mentioned. It's so easy actually to you know, pull the air quality data to your own server. If you have, we also support MQTT from the firmware. So there's so many opportunities to actually get the data into the platform of your choice, and that's exactly what we want to support with that product. Then let's see here. Yeah, local first. We also ask like how important, because we know it's important for people, but we didn't know exactly how important it is. And I think that gives a very, very clear picture that less than 10 people said local first is not important for them. And less than 10% basically said they prefer cloud. And what we have actually, I think the people that use our monitors might know this, but we have a very interesting checkbox in the Wi-Fi manager. So when you first connect the monitor to your network, there's actually a checkbox, never talk to AirGradient or something like this, which really underlines this, yeah, like for people that really don't want to use anything cloud. It comes with a couple of downsides as well that people have to be aware of. So we obviously have very advanced calibration functions on our dashboard that obviously then we cannot make use to. But I think the choice that we give to the users is the key thing. So we support everything from just using our platform, which is cloud-based, to local first or local only, basically. I think that's probably some of the most interesting questions. So people know that we have PM 2.5, 10 and 1 as well, CO2, VOCs, NOx, temperature, humidity in our current products. But we wanted to know what actually people would like to see as well, especially if we say, okay, we're going to extend the range of sensors that we plan to support in a future version. So number one is carbon monoxide, and then followed by radon, which I think is, especially in Europe and the US, it's a big topic. And then it goes into ozone, formaldehyde. Ozone is probably more outdoors. Formaldehyde, yes, it's coming from furniture, off-gassing, for example. But then interestingly, we also have actually non-air quality parameters like noise level, pressure, and actually motion detection. I think quite interesting that this came up, and things like light level. So I think quite clear, at least the first two. I think it's a very clear message, and what we need to do, and that's often the limitation a little bit. So we only put in sensor modules that we know can really give you valuable information. So sometimes there are things like there are sensor modules out there that are just not working very well. You still get data, but it's just not very useful. So we try to avoid these kind of things that make it sometimes hard to compete with these air quality monitors like 10 in 1, which you can probably throw away 7 out of 10 measurements because they're just not accurate. So there are certain limitations that we have to deal with, but I think this gives us at least a very clear message from the community what you would like to see us implementing. Let me see what else we have. Yeah, I just emailed, I think 2 hours ago, like 2 people that we did a lucky draw among these people that submitted the survey. So thank you a lot. I guess you will recognize your email. If not, you have one in your inbox. Great. So that was let me just stop sharing and look at if I find the chat here. Good. I just need to read the chat a little bit if there are questions. Okay, so one from Mark, I just read it. For security, my AirGradient devices are on separate IoT network. I assume this means that Home Assistant won't be able to find them automatically. But will it work if I enter the IP address, which are fixed into the Home Assistant AirGradient setup? I hope, I'm not sure if Joost is still there, or Sam or anybody.
I think it is already answered by Michael.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm a little bit. Okay, great. So yeah, Michael said I have my AirGradient device on an IoT VLAN, but have no problems with Home Assistant. Okay, Mark, if it still doesn't work, then feel free to reach out to our support, and then we can also connect you with Joost if we cannot figure it out ourselves. Okay, great. Then let's see if we have. Okay, I'm sharing via AirGradient, but I would also love to be able to upload to Weather Underground and other services, either directly or via Cumulus MX, which I don't know. Is there a possibility of making air quality data available in one of the formats supported by those services? I would need to check. So what we do is or you can opt in, obviously. So we are very clear that the data that your monitor generates belongs to you. And we encourage sharing the outdoor air quality data. So and for this, you obviously would need to connect it with the AirGradient dashboard. You can use Home Assistant in parallel. And then on our dashboard, you can opt in to share the data also with OpenAQ. And OpenAQ is one of probably the largest repository for air quality data from all around the world. And I know that quite a lot of services actually take then the data from OpenAQ and use it. So I'm not sure if Weather Underground actually uses this, but Michael, yeah, this is something we can check and then maybe coming back to you. But we also have a public API endpoint that actually Sam mentioned, which actually is available for everybody, every service. And I know some apps actually use it already, air quality apps, where they can just pull in the data that people make available because they want to share it. Great. Okay, here, why does the advanced calibration require a cloud connection? Could the data not be made available for download for devices used locally? Yes and no. So the calibration works that you basically compare maybe a couple of days or ideally 2 weeks, for example, of your like AirGradient monitor with a reference device. So in order to calculate these calibration factors, you basically need both data streams in the same database, and then you can develop like let's say very advanced calculations, R-squares, RMSEs, to basically then define your parameters. These parameters actually be sent back to the device, which would then also be used for Home Assistant. So theoretically, you could calculate it somehow offline. You just need to get the reference data, for example, then into Home Assistant, and you would need to replicate these calculations. So I think we could probably build something into Home Assistant that you can enter these values, but the calculation is just not that straightforward, I would say. But maybe AB like reach out to us through the support, and then we can discuss that a little bit in more detail. So it's not so much that we don't want to do it. It's just quite a complex approach that we have here. Then Luis, you mentioned a refresh of the indoor monitor. Is the current indoor monitor be hardware upgradable, just as if new connectivity matters. Yeah, I think that's a great question, actually, because it's not the first refresh we had. So some people might remember we had, at that time, we called DIY kits, which used an ESP D1 Mini as MCU. And at that time, we actually provided an upgrade kit. So people already could reuse basically the enclosure, they could reuse the sensor modules, they would just get basically a new main board, and then they could replace the main board with the new version that is the current one, which is ESP32C3 based. So yes, if we don't know exactly what will be in the refresh. So one thing that's also, I think, under discussion, and some people would like to have a bigger display, for example. So if you have a bigger display, that might have an impact on the enclosure, like the cutout, for example. But for sure, we're gonna offer some kind of upgrade kit. Okay, we just need to see like how many things change and then how many new parts you would potentially need. Great. So what else do we have? Okay, Andy, I'm still using malloc arrays integration. Is there advantage to switching to the official Home Assistant integration? I would say if you're happy with ESP Home, continue using it. Yeah, like, or you can just try out the Home Assistant integration and then choose which one you like best. I mentioned earlier for ESP Home, there's still, I think, a couple of features, especially if you want to have more options for the display and the LED configuration. I think ESP Home actually has some advantages there as well. So yeah, I don't really see the need if, like, never change a running system, I think is the saying here. Good. Yeah. Thanks, Louis. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it's modular by design. Totally agree. And it's actually something I just discussed with my co-founder last week, because more and more, like from Sensorion, for example, they integrate more and more sensor modules into modules, basically. And we said we actually don't really like that approach, because you might have a VOC sensor, CO2 sensor, PM sensor in one module. But what you do then if you, for example, want to like upgrade your VOC sensor, then you would need to replace the whole module. So I think we're gonna remain very modular in general there. Good. And then we had one more thing coming in just from Chris. The Home Assistant integration states the AirGradient integration provides an update entity that checks for firmware updates for your AirGradient device. To install the update, the device needs to be rebooted. My 9 PSLs are on 3.1.4, but it looks like the latest firmware is 3.3.8. Is this because I need to do something to allow Home Assistant to check update, or is it because my AirGradient ones are on an IoT network with no access? I need some help there. I'm not sure if Sam can answer this, please.
Sure. So basically, for the monitors able to check if it's on the latest or not, the monitor needs to be able to communicate with AirGradient server, basically. So for users that basically checklist the checkbox on the Wi-Fi portal, the monitor will not able to check if it can upgrade its version to the latest. So yeah.
I wonder, Sam, can we provide the endpoint for this check? Because then, like,
So there's a
then Chris could just whitelist that endpoint, for example, and just allow these going through. Would that be possible?
Yeah, it is possible.
Yeah. Great. So maybe you could just drop that into the chat, and then Chris, you can just allow connection to that endpoint, and then maybe you can get a very restricted firmware upgrade possibility. Oh, manually updating. Yeah, actually, that's a good thing. Like Sam, the manual update is available.
Yeah, through our website, right?
Yeah.
Not over the air.
Maybe you can drop in the link. Sometimes for the manual update, we are a little bit behind, but we are trying to improve that and make that more automatic. Yeah, maybe Sam, you can just drop a few links into the chat for Chris. Great. Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that feedback. Not sure if there are any more questions. You can always reach out to us as well through, we have a support form on the website. And we have the forum as well, where a lot of people discuss the Home Assistant integration. And we also have the forums like this where we discuss things. And then obviously there's the Home Assistant forum as well. So I think a lot of ways you can get help. Miranda, thanks for posting the blog post. I really like that one because I think it really reflects also like not only the technology side, but really also the mission that we have on improving air quality worldwide. Great. I think we are nearly at the close of the hour. Are there any more questions from anybody? You know how to reach us. Otherwise, maybe Johanna, you could do the wrap up.
All right, I see that there are no other questions, so I think it's safe for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for all the speaker today, Miranda and Joost. Thank you so much for your time, as well as Achim and Samuel. We will have the recording uploaded on our website, and we will inform you once it's uploaded and published. So please wait for the recordings. And yeah, as mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much, everyone, for this night, for this forum, and I'll see you guys in the next forum. Thank you so much, everyone.